sometimes just sitting there and like being an ear is definitely way more important than the solution that you have, because people are going through life alone a lot of the time. You know, a lot of men, a lot of women are going through a lot of things, and then it's the flooding of the house for plumbing, it's the electrical not working, it's the garage door not working whenever they were going to a hospice appointment for their parents.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again. Looking forward to another great show. This time, we are bringing on none other than Jonathan Phillips. He is a senior instructor at A1 Garage Door, and we are looking forward to this conversation. We're going to be talking about the idea of being liked or trying to be liked, and how the impact of that desire could potentially be affecting your presentation and relationship in the home. It's going to be an insightful conversation. Jonathan is an excellent trainer and has just a great way of bringing about content, an introspective way of dealing with these types of questions, which really we are all probably asking whether we think so or not. So looking forward to that conversation. Before we get to that, we're going to kick it off with a little bit of an introduction. And as always, time to start it off with a quote from Brian.
You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than in 2 years of trying to get other people interested in you. Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, it does speak to the heart of many humans, though, doesn't it? Where we are all looking for people to be interested in us, and
Some
how
validation.
that validation exactly is played out in so many ways. And boy, when somebody takes interest in you, don't you just kind of warm up to them a little bit easier, a little bit faster?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like C.S. Lewis said, I'm going to butcher it. I didn't make the quote up. You just made me think about it. But he said, typically, you don't even know when you had a conversation with a truly humble person because the whole conversation was about you.
Yeah.
It's when a truly humble person meets a person who's not truly humble. That's who the conversation's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's legit, right? You can feel that. I would say going into a conversation or going into a setting like that, sales or whatever, right? Let's not even just leave it at the sales. You can be an installer and going in to have a conversation with a client before you get started, and you still have that desire for this to go well, right? But you go in with that desire to be liked or check the box or impress the client. And I think the biggest challenge is that it's me centered. That conversation is going to be focused on me and mine and what I've done and what I've accomplished. And in the GoPro selling system that I used in a truck and train thousands of technicians in at this point, there is a piece in there for credibility, right? Where we drop a 5-second chat about why you're in good hands technically right now. And then some gratitude that could very well end up being my story of being in the trades, or my story of how I got to be part of this amazing team, or how much I appreciate this team. Should be how much I appreciate you as a human being and the fact that I get to serve you today. But other than that, that's it. That's all of it. That's all the me-focused, me-centered stuff that should be in there. Because if it's me-centered and I have to impress, what do I have to do?
Yeah. Talk.
I have to be spitting facts and history and telling them how great I am, stories about me or what have you. And if it's you focused or you interested, what are my sentences going to end with?
Question marks.
Right. My sentences are going to end with, question marks or opportunities for you to talk and for you to be the star of the show and me flipping this mic over and giving it to you, right? Like you talk. And Jonathan, so glad to have him on the show to talk about this because he's a master at this. He gets you to do a lot of the talking. He truly enjoys. I've seen him around dozens, maybe even hundreds of people, and he has good conversations with everyone around him. And he just sits there and he truly enjoys the other person talking, which is not an easy skill to master, right?
No, Brian, and I think a lot of that comes back to human nature. We are self-serving, self-oriented, and selfish by nature. That is really woven into the fabric of our DNAs, and it's counterintuitive to spend time thinking about others. You know, that's something that we try to instruct our children, right, from little on up. But if you have kids, and if specifically you have young kids, you know you don't have to teach them a thing about being selfish or self-interested. You have to spend all of your time trying to train them to be interested in somebody else or what somebody else wants to do. You know, my kids are at the age where they're starting to navigate some of those social settings where they get invited over to a friend's house or to a party. And, you know, you have 3 or 4 girls who are trying to awkwardly work through the what I want to do, but also not looking like a complete selfish person and demanding that everybody do what I want to do. And so you kind of get in this like little weird scenario where everybody's trying to play it kind of cool and be okay with what somebody else wants to do, even though that's not necessarily what they want to do. And it's a learned skill. And society has a way of kind of like beating it into you a little bit. But society also has a way of reinforcing it the other direction. I mean, AKA modern day influencers, right? Like all about me, all about what I'm doing, and all about how you should do the same. And we fall prey to that. And there's not really a lot of influencers out there that are really good at asking questions about what their followers are doing. Yeah, it's kind of the opposite. There are some good interviewers out there. And Jonathan, if he was in that vocation, would crush it about finding out more about the guest, finding out more about the person on the other side of the screen, the other side of the table, the other side of the conversation. And in many ways, I think that's what the topic at hand will be about today, where we are shifting the burden of care from it needing to be about me to needing to be about them.
Thought you were going to say the, because it would have rhymed.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And apart from literally John's words, but everything we talk about on this show today, whenever you're listening to it, the mindset, the frameworks, real world application, there's a place where we actually drill this stuff. And it's called Blue Collar Closer. It's our paid training community built specifically for technicians and salespeople in the home services who are done leaving money on the table and ready to close cleanly, professionally, and feel great about themselves when it's over. We've got a full course library of 4 to 8 minute long videos setting up the entire presentation. If you've been listening to Waste No Day thinking, I need to actually do something with this, but haven't quite figured out how to take the step into it, Blue Collar Closer is where it happens. There's a link in the show notes, wherever you're listening to this, or shoot over to bluecollarcloser.com or shoot us a text if you want more info. 279-2-CLOSER.
Yeah.
279-2. Did you get that, Nate? 279-2, because, you know, they're probably driving.
Closer.
I guess 279-2-CLOSER is probably easier, but 279-225-6737. 279-225-6737. Shoot us a text.
You sound like an infomercial over here, bro.
Moving on. Like an infomercial.
BCC is a great place to certainly learn and begin applying that journey. And some of you are already in there already. Most of you are listening to this podcast right now. And every week we take time to spotlight some of you who've chosen to apply what you're learning on these episodes week in and week out. And you've chosen to share that story back with us. And we do this in the form of a review. Brian, who are we reading today?
Great content. 5-star. You guys are doing a great job helping the trades and getting guys to the next level. Keep doing what you're doing. Korioko. Korioko. Korioko.
I like it.
Yeah, love it. Great review. Appreciate it, Korioko. Keep doing what you're doing, man. If somebody hooks you up, helps you out, and there's no price to pay for it, and the one thing they ask is, well, join a group. There is a price you could pay. But if nothing else and you get a lot out of it, create a review. Make a review. Funny, I was asking for them for a little while when I realized like I wasn't taking my own medicine, right? And now if I hear one episode of a show that moves me, like I listened to the Sean Ryan show for the first time recently, and then second, third, fourth, and fifth time, like I was on a trip in Myrtle Beach by myself. So like the whole flights, and spent a bunch of extra days at the hotel because I got snowed in. I just pounded some episodes of the Sean Ryan shows. Great stuff. A little disturbing, like how horrible the Roblox stuff is, and had to get the kids away from that. But our buddy Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann was mentioned a bunch of times on one episode, which was great. He's coming back on here in 6-8 weeks or so. It's going to be awesome because he's a freaking beast. He's got a new book coming. Cannot wait to break that down, because his other book, Nobody's Coming to Save You, was awesome, and he did a great Waste No Day episode. Anyway, we're here to talk about John Phillips today.
We are. And it's time now to put Mr. Jonathan Phillips in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Jonathan Phillips. He is a sales trainer, speaker, and leadership developer in the home services industry. As a senior instructor at A1 Garage Door Academy, he is responsible for training and developing technicians and sales professionals at one of the largest residential garage door companies in the United States. Looking forward to this great conversation. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited. I've been listening to you guys for a long time, so it's weird to be like a technician in the van listening to you guys and then becoming an instructor, and now to be invited on the podcast. Like, this is a really like humbling and really cool thing for me. So thank you guys.
It's about freaking time, buddy. We've been talking about doing this for quite some time. You were at the first boot camp, right?
Yeah.
First ever Waste No Day boot camp. And then we hung out in the casino bar. I was not drinking
No.
for the record, but I saw John's mullet at the bar and had to go say what's up, because you and the whole A1 crew that were in that boot camp, well, everyone so far, but that one in particular, because a lot of you leaders were in there, were a ton of help, a ton of fun, really hit the ball back constantly and gave good feedback, and you guys made it a blast. And that was the hardest one for sure. Like everything, right? Because my first boot camp, I was nervous as all get out. I knew 99% sure none of my content was going to work out, because I was going to bumble everything and nobody was going to get everything out of it. But because you guys picked on me the entire 2 days, it's not how it worked out. It was actually pretty good. I didn't take myself too seriously, which is a lot like what we're going to talk about today. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, Jonathan. And as you probably know by listening to an episode or two, we'd like to start off with a little bit of the history of the guest and learn how you got into the trades and kind of what's your background. So why don't you give us the tour?
Yeah. Oh, man. That is, grew up in a little town called Harrisonville outside of Kansas City in the Midwest. And I was definitely the type of kid growing up to where, man, my dad was like a jack of all trades and really tried to show me everything, working on cars, how to do it. My dad could just do anything. He comes from a family to where we have to like fix it ourselves all the way through.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I just wanted to have fun with my friends and, go out and party. And I didn't take SATs and I didn't prepare for college. So what does a Midwest boy do?
Yeah. John's spitting over here. Tell him.
What does a Midwest boy do whenever you have passing high school by the skin of your teeth? And it's just like, well, I'll join the military. That's what everybody does. So I went up and I joined the military. I originally tried out to be a Navy SEAL, and I don't know if you can tell from my stature, I ain't got it. Like I got humbled very quickly. You know, I could pass all the initial things to say I was a good candidate with, 20 pull-ups and rub a sub, mile and a half of this. But man, once I actually got there and you got like D1 athletes that absolutely like blew a meniscus, and then you're running next to them, just freaks of nature, and then you're like, I don't got it, and I'm scared, and I think I need to pick a different job. So I became a medic, and that was cool because I come from a family of like nurses and doctors way back in the day. And then that was an awesome job for like 5 years. And then I was ready to get out, and who would have thought that the kid that didn't plan for after high school didn't plan for after the military at all. You're seeing a trend here.
Yeah.
And I got out, and I just remember, I met my now wife, and, we have a beautiful boy and a beautiful family, but I was just looking for jobs wherever I could. I mean, I delivered pizza, I was painting houses, I was just doing whatever I could do. I knew I didn't want to do medicine anymore. That's a whole different podcast, going from military medicine to civilian medicine. But finally, I found a post on the greatest job finder in the world, Craigslist.
Okay.
And they said, you can make $75,000 a year. And I was like, that's more money than anyone I know. That sounds great. And it happened to be a garage door job. And what was funny about it is it was in a rough part of Kansas City. There's only a few of them. It's not a very harsh city whatsoever, but there's a few little pockets. And I think at some point someone let off a round in the air, and it actually came down through the ceiling in the middle of my interview.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like it wasn't like dramatic. It was like and then you heard something bounce on the floor, and there's dust out of the tile ceiling, and we're like looking through. It's like, is there tile ceiling termites? Like, I don't understand what's happening. And then we found the round on the ground, and then we were like, huh. And then the guy who hired me, he's like, that's a good sign. You're hired. Like, the interview stopped right there, and I just got the job. And I was like, sick. Awesome. And then, so that was at a garage door company, and I actually became the number one technician there within my first month.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's because everyone else quit, and I was the only technician. I was the only technician, so it's real easy. Number one, I was awful, man, as far as like, it took me like, I think there was one job I think about as my first door install, because I didn't have any training. I just had Google and just figuring it out. And I didn't understand that it was commission, but I didn't understand sales. And then I'd never worked with tools heavily in my life, so I'm just winging it. Like, I ended up in the hospital, like, bad twice in the first 6 months of doing garage doors.
Yikes.
Like, I cut off the tip of my finger, and now it's all crooked because I didn't have health insurance. So I just had to go to work the next day after they sewed it back together. And then I actually had a garage door cone explode, and I didn't notice that when it exploded. I just felt something weird, and I went like this, and there was red all over my head, and one of the cone shrapnels like shot me in the neck. And my wife was like, are you sure you want to do this job? And I was like, I don't know what else to do. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. And it took me like 2 days to install my first door. I was so bad at it. I was calling the engineers that manufactured the door and being like, you messed up. You messed up. Something's up. And they're like, no, it's right. And so just all of this, and then I end up working for a year, and it ends up being like 5 o'clock in the morning to like, it was a good day if I made it home by like 7 or 8 o'clock.
Wow.
And then it was like, do a couple installs, run like 8 service calls. And then, so honestly, it wasn't surprising to get home at like 10, 11. A bad night was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then up in a few hours and doing it again, running anywhere from 6 to 7 days a week, living off McDonald's and Monster energy drinks, and just essentially killing myself. Like, my diet, and just pale and disgusting and skinny and sick. And just trying to survive. And then finally I found a place to where I was like, I don't want to do commission anymore. And I found a place for commercial garage doors to where I could get paid $25 an hour. And I was like, at least it's consistent and I can budget. And so I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And the thing is there's a guy there. I don't know about name dropping because he's not really like a big podcast guy. But if you're watching, I love you, brother. And thank you for everything. But he started garage doors when he was 14. I actually just contacted him for
Is it Tommy? It's Tommy,
no,
isn't it?
No.
Okay, all right. Because he's pretty media shy.
But this guy's been doing garage doors since he was 14 years old with his dad. And I called him last week for his birthday because he taught me like the beginnings of my garage door knowledge. And he's still stacking doors, and it was his 76th birthday last week. Like he still does it for fun, you know? And
Luke
but
Martin?
the problem, no, not Luke,
Right.
not
I'll get it one of these times.
Not the gray wolf. But the difference is I was hired on at $25 an hour. I made it up to $28.50, and guess how much he got paid with all his experience?
32.
30.
Yeah.
$30 an hour with like 50 plus years of experience. And I was just like, oh, there's the ceiling. It's time to get back into sales. So I got into commercial sales. I mean, there was some big, like my first sale, I walked into a room to where we had to go to Burlington Coat Factory to get me a suit. Because they're like, you're the only one that's clean enough to do this. And then it was just with big executives for like a prominent gas station desserts and edibles that are bread. And it was like just like 120 dock doors, 6 ramp doors, dock levelers, truck restraints, falcon eyes. I just walked in there and gave them the folder, and I was like, this is what we're doing, and this is the warranty. And they're like, okay. And I was like, so that's around 2.3. And then they're like, all right, sure. And I was just like, like, did I just pull that off? And truth is, they have so much money they didn't care. But then like the commission on that like really changed the trajectory for my family. So then, but with commercial sales for a rudimentary, like that was a lucky one. Typically you have to get on these builds like 3 to 5 years in advance. And then you only get paid like a third of it. And then you get paid another third whenever the warranty's done, and then another third. So like the commission's really inconsistent. And to get those jobs with more established companies, it was really hard. So I was like, man, I need to change. Maybe I should just go back into commission work and work on garage doors. And then I remember being at Clopay. I saw a picture of Tommy on the side of the truck back when he had his like clipboard and like that smile. And I was just like, oh, that's a little pretentious, but you know, who does garage doors out of a van? And then the technician let me look at it, and I started following Tommy, and I was like, that's cool. And they have a training academy to where you don't have to get shot in the neck or lose your finger. I was like, I'm going to move to Phoenix and I'm going to do that job. So I talked to my wife.
And no spent rounds raining through the ceiling.
Yeah, like just like, oh my goodness, like someone that actually which don't get me wrong, I worked for incredible people, but like this was a different level. And I just decided, I was like, I want to be a trainer, because my favorite job in the military was being an instructor. So I was like, I do garage doors now. That was the only time I was happy. Let's combine them. And so I literally, me and my wife took a vacation, did an Airbnb. We got off the plane. I went to A1 Garage Door. I didn't realize like the gravity of Tommy Mello at that time. I was just like, oh, this is a cool guy. I asked to see him. I just walked in the front door and I was like, hey, can I talk to Tommy Mello? And they're like, why? And I was like, I want to work here. And then they let me see him and Brian Davenport. And then after talking to them, they hired me. And then me and my wife went back to Kansas City, packed all of our stuff up in 2 weeks, and moved out to Phoenix and never looked back. And then luckily enough, I had mentors like Elisa Imperial, Andrea Davis, and Travis Rackley in the training center. And I told them my intentions, and they developed me into the trainer I am today. And that's how I got into the trades. And now it's been about 10 years in total in the garage door industry. And it's been a wild ride, like just the craziest like I do garage doors, but the stuff I've got to do and see, and I found out it's like, it's not about what you do, it's about the people. And if you find the right people, like as long as you're passionate about what you do, you can go as far as you want. It doesn't matter if you take out trash, wash dishes, work on garage doors. It doesn't matter. There's someone that's the best in the world, and you should follow that if you really love it. And that's what I did.
Well, great story, Jonathan. And it's super interesting to hear, I assume, just the highlights or the lowlights in some cases of those 10 years. And we appreciate you coming on here now. And it is really cool to, like, again, hear that kind of come full circle, right? You know, like you literally started at the bottom and worked your way through to now being a senior instructor, which is really cool and a unique opportunity for you. And we hope to hear kind of some of what you've learned and how you're applying that instruction into the next generation on the episode. And I kind of want to pivot into that because what we're talking about tonight is the concept of being liked or attempting to be liked, and sometimes focusing on that when perhaps that's not the right intention at all. And so kind of to set the stage on this a little bit, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, you know, Maslow's needs and like the pyramids and things like that about what people generally need or require, like physiological needs like food and water and warmth, and safety needs like security and general safety. But then there's usually this other component, which is like a sense of belonging, right? They need to feel like they belong. They need to have some type of intimate relationship, some type of friendship, some type of, like love, or feeling like there is a purpose to their life. And maybe some of that is where we find ourselves in terms of when we are dealing with other people, we're seeking a sense of approval, a sense of like, hey, am I okay? Like, do you think I'm okay? Is what I'm doing okay? Is who I am okay? And so I want to kind of start it off there, because what we're talking about tonight is around this idea of trying to be liked, right? And then the outcomes of that, and whether they're good or bad, it's something that perhaps we're all guilty of, is this trying to be liked. So from your perspective, Jonathan, does this all come back to like, you know, kindergarten or something like that? Or are we all just living out our trauma from first grade when, you know, somebody told us that they don't want to play with us and we're just stuck in that rotation for the rest of our life? Or what's the big deal here?
Yeah, whenever I'm explaining this to students, and that's kind of the fun part of my job, is I think we all kind of have an inkling emotionally, you know, in the lizard part of your brain. It's just getting to communicate it in a way to where everybody agrees. And so I get the pleasure of having, you know, 50, 60 students a month to where I get to get that thought out. And over time, I found one thing, like I'm about 3,000 students deep at A1 Garage Door.
Yeah.
And I think that what goes with the most is, I think men, and without getting too much into the psychology, have a need to be desired. And I don't know if we know how to express that. So we do it through giving solutions to problems to everyone that we're involved with. And I do that with my wife. I do that with my friends. I do that with my child. And whether you are a God-fearing man or believe in evolution, there is a dopamine and serotonin response for you being able to go into a situation where someone has a problem or needs help, and you're able to fix that for them. You are hardwired to do that. And women are too. And I think that's also why women eat our lunch, especially in the trades whenever they get into sales. And here's the reason why. It's that, and maybe Elisa Imperial made this really apparent to me. So the way that I explain to the students is like, okay, so there's a problem, but I'll ask the students, like, do you fall asleep next to someone at night, a significant other? And they're like, yeah, you know, they'll raise their heads. And I was like, okay, so I'm super lame. I like to fall asleep by like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I just want to stay at home, watch Netflix, read a book, hang out with the baby. Like, that's all I want to do. But 8 o'clock, it's time to go to bed. And then, so there I am in bed, and because I sleep like a vampire. I don't know, makes the story funny. And then all of a sudden, right as I'm about to go off into super awesome dreamland, my wife will say, babe, can we talk about something? Okay. We were that close. Okay.
Up goes the blood pressure.
Yeah. And so I have two options. I can say, babe, I've been working all day. I gotta go on the Waste No Day podcast tomorrow. I need all the sleep in the world. Or or I can say like, hey, Sugar Plum, what's going on? So I go with Sugar Plum, and then she's like, there's a girl named Becky at work, and she's just super passive aggressive, and she's super mean in the teams, and she's always messing everything up, and she puts it on other people and blames everybody. And we try to train her, but she doesn't even show up to training, and it's just super hard. I'm just like, okay, have you talked to Becky about this? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, you should talk to Becky about this. And if Becky's still passive aggressive, you're going to have to go to a point where you bring it up to management. And let me give you some advice. Management likes documentation. So after you have that conversation, you need to document when she's still doing those moments. You'll bring it up to management, and management will either coach her up or coach her out. And then the problem's solved. And my wife will go, not doing all that.
You roll over and try to go to sleep.
Yeah. So then I'm just like,
Problem
I tried.
solved.
Yeah, I tried.
Fist
I
bump.
gave you the solution. I know what's going to happen. And then I go to sleep. Now, then what's going to happen is my wife will come to me 2 weeks later, and she'll be like, babe, guess what? I'm just like, what, Sugar Plum? What's going on with your day? And then she'll say, I was at work and I was talking with my friend Ashley, and she gave me the best advice. And I'm like, what? She's like, I was talking to her about Becky. And I go, mm-hmm. And she's like, and she told me that I need to talk to Becky about it first. And if she doesn't do that, that management likes documentation. And I should document those scenarios and then bring it up to management, and then management will take care of it and coach her up or coach her out. And I just go, Ashley's so smart. That's crazy. But then the problem is that a problem makes an emotion, and you want to solve it really quick to get rid of that emotion, right? Whenever Ashley and my wife sat at lunch, if you can imagine, her and Ashley didn't just come up with a plan to coach Becky. They both were just like, oh, Becky, she's so hard to do. I know, she sucks. Can you believe she did this? They had this like kind of gossip, emotional, like before they got to the solution. And I think that's something that's really lacking in sales a lot. Not to make it rhyme, among males, and why women, I got Elisa Imperial, I got Melissa Hagan, like those chicks, they're there to solve emotional turmoil before they go to solutions. And I'm telling you, it's insane. And that's something that we have to train on in class in a male dominated field. We have female technicians, and they barely need training on it at all. They just dominate.
So they come together and form, not one person, but one spirit, so to speak, but then with two brains, and then attack the issue together. Whereas you come in as the parent to your child state wife, waving the finger of here's what needs to happen. And like most wives and children, they shut down, or us when somebody does it to us, when we have have the ice cold manager that wants to just fix everything and not hear us out.
But this is one of the biggest points, and that, believe it or not, this does lead into making the client like you, is that men to be desired feel like the only way they hold value is to hold a solution and to fix the problem. To which, yes, that's the end goal, but I would argue you're going too fast and you're not addressing the emotions of a situation. And I honestly don't think that I go to a lot of calls where the garage door is the lead reason for that emotion. And I'm not telling technicians to be therapists, like we're not qualified, but there's a lot of times where I've had clients like super rude, don't want to listen to me, or what I perceive as rude, short, crass, and then just a little bit more rapport and asking how their day is going. And you'll find some of the craziest sad stories of things outside of the problem that you're trying to solve. And sometimes just sitting there and like being an ear is definitely way more important than the solution that you have, because people are going through life alone a lot of the times. A lot of men, a lot of women, they're going through a lot of things, and then it's the flooding of the house for plumbing, it's the electrical not working, it's the garage door not working whenever they were going to a hospice appointment for their parent. Like there's a lot more going on. So to come there and just rush into a solution sometimes, when sometimes clients need an ear and an outlet to let their emotions out, was probably one of the biggest aha things that I learned from A1 Garage Door, to actually show up as a person before I show up as a technician.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, Jonathan, and I appreciate you bringing that up because it ties in with this really where we're going here around this idea of desiring to be liked. In your example with your spouse, in moving straight to solution, do you think, or how do you feel about that when you consider your own train of thought? Are you providing that solution, shall we say, quickly and efficiently because you are desiring to be liked? Like, is that the subconsciousness behind that?
Yeah, I want to, especially becoming an instructor. Like I became an instructor for A1 Garage Door at 28 years old. Like that's not a very like old age to be considered like a senior in my industry. So very early, I made the mistake of wanting to show off my technical knowledge, not only to my peers in the industry, but clients as well. And I found out that people really they don't care that a solid shaft torsion system with 4 springs takes 240 inch-pounds to 300 inch-pounds for torque on set for drums and springs. Yeah, they don't care.
No, not only do they not care, but taking them down that road puts them in a different sort of mind state. Like it's not like it's neutral and you just wasted 5 minutes of your day talking about it. You took them out of whatever relationship you had previously built with them and you became a confusing engineer, maybe even remind them of a teacher they didn't like and couldn't learn from. And now oftentimes they feel maybe subservient or like an idiot, right? And if you're dealing with an R on the core profiles that we train in bluecollarcloser.com or S on the disc profile, it's like their worst fear and the thing that they run away from the most is feeling like an idiot, looking and feeling stupid. They can't tolerate that, right? And if we're beating somebody to death with technical knowledge, and it's not like you didn't say it in a way like, Brian and Nate, how do you not know this? You just said it like, this is what I know. And probably knowing you probably even say it in a way like, isn't that cool, right? And the client might go, yeah, that's pretty cool. But still at the same time, they're going like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. So it's like, if we have to get technical, we get technical in analogies, right?
Yeah.
Relate that thing to something that you know I have a pretty good handle on, or don't do it at all.
Yeah, I think, and it was me like trying to prove that I'm worthy of being there with my solutions that I was giving. I had to show that like, hey, I know what I'm talking about and I'm that guy. And I think
you hit the nail on the head. I know what I'm
worth and I belong here and I'm that guy.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about. And when we're trying to be liked or valued, we're talking. We're filling all the void of silence with words. But when we're liking or interested in someone, what are we doing then? If I'm interested, I'm getting answers, right?
Yeah. Asking questions.
We're asking questions. So our time is spent with our sentences ending with question marks and then giving the client the opportunity to be the star of the show. And that's why I let Nate do the interviews. So much better at questions than me, right?
But that also brings it to the point of like, because I'm trying to give the story of like how I came across this, because I don't want to be that guy. If I come in here and say this, it's the same way as me telling you 240 inch-pounds to 300 inch-pounds. So I personally, whenever you guys are asking me questions, that's why I like to talk it with stories. So I'm giving you the full spectrum of how I came to this. And that can also start where I was at A1 Garage Door. And to be a trainer, I had to try out. And I got a little nervous. So that's where I'm riding around in someone's van and coaching them throughout the day. And what happened is there was 10 times in a row that people had their best sales day ever in service. That's how I got the job. And then people like, dude, John must be training them like crazy. He must know all the secrets. And I can be completely honest, when I didn't train them on anything whatsoever. I did not give them technical help. I did not give them sales help. what I started with was a mindset. And so there was this one guy I went into a truck with, and he was kind of like a real pessimist, just always negative all the time. And I get in the van with him that morning. I'm just like, hey, bro, what's up? Where are we going? He's like, we're going out to Sun City, which is a kind of an older retirement community out here, if you're listening. And I was like, okay, what's the client's name? What are we doing? He's like, it's in Sun City. It's a tune-up. I don't know. It's going to suck. Hopefully we get it done and get a better job by the end of the day. And I'm just like, all right, this is going to be fun. So he starts up the van. We start driving, and it's just dead quiet. And I'm just like, hey, man, you listen to music like a normal person instead of just silence? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I listen to some pretty heavy stuff, though. And I was like, okay, turn it up. And it was just the most heavy metal, guar, can't understand what you're saying, talking about sacrificing animals. And I was like, this is, whoa. And then I paused it and I was like, hey, man. And he's like, you don't like the music? And I was like, no, I like that music if I'm trying to set a deadlift PR. You know what I mean? But we're about to go to Susan's house, and she's 87 years old. And we're about to show up with mosh pit energy. How about we calm down a little bit? Fix that. And he's just like, well, I don't listen. I was like, do you listen to stand-up comedy? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, well, we have a very wide spectrum. Let's go back to like Red Jacket, Eddie Murphy, Raw, and we'll just go up from there until we find out what you're into. We are laughing hysterically the entire time, by the point to where whenever we show up to Susan's house, like we're having to like keep it together. Like whenever you do something bad in class and the teacher's kind of looking at you. But we knock on the door, and I mean, this guy has shown his first smile today. He's trying to keep it together. We're giggling. And I just watch him go, hey, Susan, so-and-so with A1 Garage Door. How's it going today? And I watched her go from to just, oh, these are nice guys. And I didn't coach him on anything. It's because he was in such a good mood and just talked to her like a person. He had his best sales ticket ever. And he's just like, man, that like, what'd we do today? I was like, we put you in a good mood. That's all we did. And what happened and what he didn't realize is I understand that people can't do that every day. You know what I mean? The sales process, the be in a good mood all the time. I choose to listen to stand-up comedy or my rules for Behind the Windshield, it needs to be funny or educational while I'm driving. If it's not one of those two things, I don't have time for it. So it's either stand-up comedy or Waste No Day podcast. That's the only thing I'll listen to.
Awesome.
Going in between jobs.
Let's cut the episode before he starts adding other stuff in. So we are the second best sales trainer out there behind Eddie Murphy. Got it.
Yes. Don't repeat the jokes to the clients unless you know them really well. That can go south very quick.
Yeah. And even still.
But like, even as a trainer, like I have a social battery. I've definitely gone to houses at night like that 5, 6 o'clock. And have you ever like over quoted something because you don't want to do a job? You're just like, I've been there. I'm a human being. Like, I'm tired. And then the one time where you're just like, dude, all this, there's no way. And then they go, yeah, let's do that right now. And then you're like, okay. It's because I wasn't trying, but I honestly know for a fact that outside of my job, and because I have to, like, it's hard to put myself in like a good mood all the time. And it's hard to put on the top hat and do the show if I have to. And it's because everyone said, always make the client like you. And that was exhausting because some days I didn't have it in me. And then that's whenever I flipped it to what we're talking about today. And it was find a reason to like a client. And now my whole goal when I go to a job and how I flipped it is I pretend, and maybe this will work for some of you, to where if I was a reporter and I had to write a amazing, funny, incredible story about this person and their life and what they went through and something crazy they did, that's what I'm doing. And I get that story first. I treat every client like this. All the way through, I'm the reporter. I'm going to write a piece about their life, where they grew up, how they got to where they are, the craziness that they went through. And I'll tell you what, I go to some jobs and there's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours before we've even talked about the solution. Because I just want to know why people work and how they got to where they are and what they've gone through in their life. And I find it very fascinating to find out how people grew up and how they function and how they got to where they are. And even when they're retired, you know, an old guy named Herbert that I think is kind of a square says some things that he shouldn't say, but he's a little bit comfortable. And then finally, you know, you point out something on the wall and you're like, dude, you got a lot of old veteran stuff. Like, what's going on with that? What are you up to? And then he's like, actually, you want to see something cool? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, here's where I got to take John Wayne on a plane and we were shooting 50 cals in the Grand Canyon. I'm just like, Herbert's the coolest guy in the world. You know what I mean? But now it's not about making clients like you. It's the fact that I'm fascinated with their life. I don't have to make them like me anymore. I got a good story. I get to learn something and they're interested in like me because I'm just fascinated by them. So like I said, just be a reporter and you're going to write a story about every client. And I just find questions to do that based off of what they give me, what's in the garage. And I'm telling you, it completely changed everything for me. It's just being in a good mood, pretending like I'm a reporter doing a piece on somebody.
I think we were talking about this when you did Wiser Wednesday recently, but Dr. Jordan Peterson always says, every time you have a conversation with someone, approach that conversation like you have something absolutely fascinating and earth-shattering to learn from them, because you 100% do. Anyone you have a conversation with, you can learn something that will just rock your world. Yeah, and I was much the same. I talk about all the time that I could be with a client for 2 hours before I started a maintenance inspection. And I didn't do that all the time, but I did that. I mean, I couldn't put a number on the amount of times that happened, because mostly it was for me. When I got better over time, I realized that until the wall of that, like, I don't know you, you don't know me, I'm not 100% sure about you yet. Until that wall was gone, we weren't going to do business together. Right. Mm-mm. And then if I did a maintenance and started showing you things, you might be half in, half out. You might not be sure that you care what I have to say or trust me enough to take my advice yet. And that was a reality for me. And I was already pretty disarming. Like, I got along with people pretty quickly. So, but I still felt like until that wall's gone, I got no business doing anything else. And then when you get that wall down, what happens next? The conversation becomes so easy, right? And before you know it, took you an hour and a half to get there. Now you're just having a great time. It's 2 hours, 45 minutes, and I haven't even seen the water heater yet. Like, man, hold up. You're inside, you're going, time out. I got to make this thing happen. But once you get past that point, you have earned the right to make a recommendation in that home. You know enough about them, I feel like, because when I would be too quick, I would have a lot of discovery to do at the closing table, which is not the place to be discovering things. But I didn't know the people enough to even make recommendations. Like, I got an hour and a half into a call and I don't know how many kids are here. I don't know how long they're going to be in the home. I have no idea what the plan is for this family or this place. And I have no business making recommendations for a 10-year plan when they might be moving out of here in 3 months. And I have no idea, right? So getting to know them really well, letting that wall come down. And then the one thing I found out is, like you, is I could be so thoroughly fascinated by the conversation I had that I would leave and like call my wife or one of my bros and be like, bro, you got to hear this. Right.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was like my favorite part about doing it. And I look back now, it's been a long time since I ran a call, 2013 probably. And there are some calls that I see where I should have sold that and I wish I could have it back. But much more so, I wish I could rewind the clock back to the early years of running calls when too much focus was put on the sale, or in my immaturity, hurry up and getting through this crappy day and getting home at a decent time for once, for crying out loud, or, you know, hurry up and getting to my drug of choice, opiates or whatever yours is, video games, Netflix, I think John said. right? Whatever it is, your thing that you got to hurry up and get home to. But the thing that I wish I could have more of would be the little round circle kitchen table with the World War II veteran and his wife, and him just sitting there telling me stories, and me, just being fascinated, having a great time. I would love to have more of that. And I think back to all the calls that I sped through, either on wanting to make a sale or realizing there was no sale to be made and wanting to kind of hurry up and get through this and get to the next one where I could earn my paycheck or what have you. And it's like, what did I miss on that call by being whatever you would call that?
Hasty.
Hard, uncaring, hasty, cold, like impersonable, because I was treating a human being like that. A human being who had me out for service, right? And it's just not the way to be. So you have any stories of, and you've done a lot of ride-alongs now these days, of a technician, not yourself, but seeing someone else as a third party going in to impress, where you saw it and helped make the correction and turn things?
Yeah, there's been a couple ride-alongs.
Name them.
Yeah. I was down in Texas, Houston, and I was going on a ride-along with the technician, and it seems kind of silly, but just to make when you're the trainer, they get kind of nervous whenever I go on a ride-along with them. So I always introduce myself as a trainee because I am learning what that technician is doing. And it kind of sets them up as like they're above, so the clients don't come to me, because I don't like it when I go on ride-alongs and they're like, this is John, he taught me everything I know. So then the client ignores them and just talks to me the whole time. I'm like, this isn't my thing right now. I'm here to coach. But I went into one and he just went straight into diagnosing because he didn't want to take time because we'd been out there before. So he was like, there's not enough meat on the bones. Like, it's already this, this, and this. And I just walked in there, and this gentleman had this beautiful house, like right by the beach in Houston. And it was in this little cul-de-sac area. And I just walked in and I was like, dude, you made it. And he's like, what? And I was like, this is stunning. Like, you made it. You are living the dream right now. You have a gorgeous house, the beach. Like, you got to tell me how you did it. I got to know the story of you and how you got here. Because this is it. This is what everybody wants. And then this turned into this incredible story to where it just turned into, this guy was talking to me the entire time. And I was super fascinated. Like, he started off as like a bosun's mate in the Navy, which is like one of the worst jobs that you could ever have, and put in like his 21 years. And then he retired from the post office, and then he gets other payments and stuff. So this guy was telling me how he's getting like 16 grand a month. And he's like, so I just got this house really early. He's talking about how the neighborhood's changed over time, and now he has enough money because his kids are all over the nation. So then most of his money just goes into airplane flights so he can see all of his grandbabies. And we're just talking about that the whole time. And just that story of his life. And then it was just that technician chiming in, just being like, okay, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And then the guy would look at me and he's like, what do you think? And I was like, is this where you're going to be forever? Is this where the grandkids are going to visit? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you not want to deal with it ever again, to where, other than if me and you wanted to hang out, if we saw each other at the grocery store, like to where it wouldn't be under these circumstances? He's like, yeah. And I was like, that option. That's the only one I can guarantee you has a lifetime warranty and will be taken care of forever. Wouldn't talk to the technician when we first got there, but as soon as it's like, dude, you got to tell me the story how you go from wherever you came from to this beach house property, and just listening to that story. And then that's whenever that technician finally got it. So he goes to the next call and he starts asking people's story, like how they got here. And then that's been the biggest difference with him. And now he's one of the top techs in the company, hands down. And he's obsessed with finding the story about people. Like I said, just everybody's got a story, and everyone thinks that, especially in the garage door industry, we have some like secret sales and stuff like that. And, ooh, A1's got this awesome sales. No, it's that we tell our technicians to slow down and just talk to people. That's it. Nothing secret.
How can a tech, salesperson, technician in the home services know the difference in themselves in just being mildly inquisitive, and then, you know, on that kind of surface level where you just ask a question and inside you're rolling your eyes like, all right, come on, get to it, versus like feeling that genuine interest or having that genuine interest. Or let's put it more bluntly, if you're talking to the CEO types on the core profile, the D type on the disc profile,
Great.
as the tech, and you know how they are, they don't really want to hear your story, right? And the technicians like that too. We're trying to get to the bottom line. Like, what are we here to do, right?
Yeah.
How does that guy turn himself into a caring, genuine, inquisitive person in that kind of moment?
So if I was understanding that question right, is it that the client is that CEO, or that the technician has them? The technician.
Yeah. Not interested in your personal details. That's the hallmark of the CEO personality.
Yeah. So how can you use details to your advantage? I think that CEO personality would prefer that. What details can I use to my advantage? If you want to get like blunt,
tactical.
I'll save that one for later. But that CEO mentality, like when I get into rapport, whenever I have technicians, that dominant, that CEO, basically we turn rapport into more of like an information gathering. So with that, we train those guys. Like, let's take cars, for example. I'm not a car guy. The most I can do is like a head gasket, and I messed that up the first time. That car is somewhere, metal scrap, but I did it a second time and it worked. So that's as far as I can go. But if you want me to talk about some V8 or like LS swapping or something like that, cars, I'm just not interested. I don't care. I need to go from point A to point B. But I go into a garage, and maybe it is superficial that guy's like rebuilding a Mach 1 Mustang. I feel like no matter what, everybody can have an appreciation for the body and curves of old American muscle. All right? Sure, I'll play. I want to know about that. And I'm going to ask him how he got into that car and what he's doing. And then he's going to open the hood and he's going to show me what he's rebuilt. And what's really cool is whenever I can let clients teach me about their hobbies and I ask questions about it, I'm observing how they're teaching me, and I'm going to do that whenever it's my turn to teach and mirror how they teach and use those words. Or then too, he opens that car hood and shows the carburetor, and I see a bunch of chrome and all that stuff in there. And I'm just like, where'd you get that? Is that refurbished? He's like, no. I was like, oh, you buy it. Where do you get stuff like that? He's like, oh, there's a place called CJ Pony Parts down in Texas. Why do you pick them? He's like, oh, it's American made and has the best warranty. Thank you.
Now, when we talk about the garage door, here's the CJ Pony House version.
Here's the parts that are American made.
And you know that,
warranty.
And you know how important that warranty is to them.
Yeah. Or then like, let's say I even use it for like price desensitization. Like there's a lot of guys at our company that are really good about talking, and specifically for that D-type CEO type mentality technician. Like they're not scared to talk about money. I have a guy named Brandon Colby who works at our company. He gets like the newest Ford Raptor every year. He turns it in. He gets the best Can-Ams. Like, and he shows people. And he's just like, check out this Ford Raptor. Got a smoking deal up in Flagstaff for $150,000. He says thousands when he's talking about what he bought. And then the client gets comfortable talking about their Ferrari or whatever they're pulling out of the car or the garage. And then he goes, yeah. And they're talking all this big money things that they buy. And then he's like, oh yeah, fix your garage door today too. Because they've been talking about big money stuff the entire time. Now, I'm not a $150,000 Ford Raptor guy, right? Do I love going over to Brandon Colby's house and he takes us at a driver out in the desert? And something about being in a truck where it throws you back at 60 miles an hour and he just guns it. That's awesome. I get it. But for me, my speed's more just like, whoa, water softener. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a question about that? We were getting some quotes to get a new water system at our house. The guy came out and quoted us like $18,000, and I just didn't know. He was talking about payments for like $200, but like, what'd you guys do? What'd you spend on it? And they're like, oh, we did payments. Thank you. Or, oh, we paid outright. Thank you. Why'd you pick that one? And then they're going to tell me a bunch of stuff that they liked about the last person that was successful selling at their house. And I'm going to do that. So if you want the CEO, like quick cut, okay, we can use rapport to where it's information gathering if you're not really that emotionally available person. Just depends on what you want.
Hear that, Nate?
No, sorry. I was
Copy.
thinking about some systems I was designing at work. I just tuned out there for a second.
Was drilling down on being emotionally unavailable.
Yeah. Jonathan, you mentioned about how, you have a social battery. I'm still trying to find mine. And so as we think through some of these things from a technician standpoint, it sounds like you're really focusing on being curious, right?
Yes.
And that curiosity, whether it's for your spouse, whether it's for a client, whether it's for, just a coworker, it's serving you well because it's serving them well, right? And like that's the trade, if you will. And it's not really one of these like you both lose trades, it's you both win trades, where you're learning more about them, you're learning more about your spouse, you're learning more about the scenario, you're learning more about your coworker, and it's making them feel part of the equation, part of the scenario. Because everybody, to go back to what you said at the beginning, everybody has this desire to want to be desired. We want to have somebody who cares and takes interest in us and who we are and what we do. And I think we put up a lot of false bravado and I don't need anybody type mentality as really defense mechanisms, because we are worried that if we actually start to reveal portions of ourselves and nobody takes interest, that's a painful scenario. It's painful to like put yourself out there a little bit and it feels like nobody takes interest. And then you're just kind of left there saying, see, this is why I don't talk about myself. This is why I don't let anybody in, because of the painful other side of it. So as we kind of like bring the podcast in for a landing, this has been really informative. And I love the idea of being that reporter and really trying to investigate. I want to go back to the first scenario that you said with your wife, because I feel like a fair amount of our listeners, most of our listeners are men. And I would tend to believe that most of them have either a significant other or a spouse. And they've all probably been caught in the same scenario where you have been in your story, which is straight to the solve, right?
Yeah.
Significant other presents a problem. And what do? Straight to the solve. Because of course, like you asked me a question, what should I do? Of course, I'm going to give you the answer. This is what you should do. Structure by structure, point by point. I'll do it alphabetically, numerically, by priority. How do you want me to phrase the solution? But we're going to talk about the solution because you just asked me what to do.
And because I love you this much, honey.
Yeah. And, maybe some of us more mature people or maybe people like, Brian's ilk who have a little bit more of a silver tongue, they might even start throwing in phrases like, well, honey, if I was you, I would do this. And we feel like, oh, yeah, she's definitely not going to see through the fact that I'm presenting a solution, but I'm doing it in third party, right? Like she's not going to see that. So this whole concept of like moving straight to the solve is every man's battle in many ways, because it's what we do. Like I want solutions quickly. So if you were to replay the scenario of your wife and her friend, well, not friend, frenemy, Becky, right? And you were to then apply this scenario of being curious and not going straight to the solve, what would that sound like?
Yeah. So I would look her dead in the eye, just like I'm looking at you, Nate. No. No, but I'd be like, okay, hey, slow down. Like I'm hearing a bunch of stuff, but let's start from the beginning. How did we get here?
Wow. Amazing. You're going to be married forever, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, start from the beginning. We just went through 20 minutes of nothing. I got to hear it all over again.
There's like the spark notes that it's going to start with, to where it feels like you have all the information you need. You do. And believe it or not, what I understand about my wife and what I understand about me now is honestly, people know what to do. They're just looking to talk it out with you to verify and validate. She knows what to do. It's that she just needs to validate her feeling on the decision that she's made to do the right thing. I can't tell you, I'm guilty of it, to where I'll go to people and think that I need advice, and then they give me like, I already know to do that. And it makes it frustrating. Yes, I already know that. Yes, I already know that. And it was really just because I wanted to get it all out. So what I would do in that situation is she's going to give me the spark notes, and I'm going to be like, okay, let's start from the beginning because I want to help you. And I think you know what to do, but just to make sure, let's start from the beginning, piece by piece. And then you go, if you want to be funny, you can just be like, "Oh, really? No. Wow. Oh my." And she said, "What?" No. But just slow people down and let them explain it more. That's all you have to do. Can you
Explain
illuminate
it
that?
more.
Can explain it more?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. So, Jonathan, the reason I wanted to bring this back up is obviously because I want to bring a little bit of conclusion to that story and like what's the better scenario, but because we're relating that story to what technicians do in the home, and in so many ways, the trades, whether you're in garage doors or plumbing or roofing or landscaping, is about solutions. That is literally what the trades is. It is somebody has a problem, something's broken, they called me here to solve it. So, of course, the natural inclination of a tradesperson is to go straight to solve. That's why I'm here. That's why you called me, straight to solve. But it is the same scenario potentially of your original story with your spouse, where you went straight to solve. And what did she do? Blocked out your solution, like pretended like that wasn't something that she was willing to entertain.
Yeah, she was like, "I'm gonna go get another quote from Ashley." Is
Yeah,
what happened.
exactly. And like how, wow, just, what a great story and a great tie in, because that's exactly what happens in so many ways. And this level of curiosity that you're bringing into the equation, I think is so informative and so challenging for an industry that is just diabolically bent towards solutions. And of course, that's where everything ends. Like the story of Becky does end in a solution, but it's the roadway and the journey and the time that it took to get to that solution instead of just immediately getting there. And it's really amazing that in that story, it was really the same solution. So the last thing I want to wrap us up on here, Jonathan, is that, we have a fair amount of new people to the trades listening, but I believe we have some veterans as well. And the trades has a way of creating some thick skin. If you didn't start off with thick skin, you'll probably end up with thick skin
by the end of your apprenticeship, at least.
And there's a reason for that, because you tell all these stories and they sound so fantastical, and like you have this way. And of course, Jonathan, I mean, the dude's telling jokes and like he's making people warm up. And last time I tried to do that, I got thrown out of a house. And this jadedness comes over the technician. In many ways, it's self-preservative, because nobody likes to be declined. Nobody likes to be hurt. Nobody likes to be tossed out of the house. Nobody likes to be told to go pound sand, that I wouldn't spend that much money if it was for my own mother, type of thing. And so this callousness develops over this curiosity, because the last time that I tried to be curious, the last time that I asked this question, ... happened. And I didn't like that. And it made me feel like this. And so I'm not doing that again. I'm just going to mind my P's and Q's. I'm going to tell them exactly what needs to be done. You get the point.
Right.
So as we wrap up here, Jonathan, speak to the jaded technicians, the guys who have been in the trenches, so to speak, sometimes even literally, and who have kind of gotten a little bit cold towards client persons and their stories. And maybe like Brian said, they're not even naturally curious, but maybe over time they've just really lost a curiosity because of getting beaten up in one way or another. How do we fight back from that? What does the road to recovery? I mean, it's clearly important the way that you express this and the way that you're demonstrating it, but how do we get back to that sense of genuine curiosity where we take interest in humanity?
Yeah. So I would say that in the garage door industry, that I get students that have been doing this longer than I've been alive. And they have to come to the academy, look at this awful mustache and mullet. And it's essentially, and I never come in and be like, "Hey, the way you've been providing for your family the entire being, the way you paid for Christmas and dinner and your kids' school, guess what? You've been doing it wrong, idiot." Like, no, that doesn't work. What I can tell you is if you're a garage door technician, run 12 jobs a day and do it for 30 years, that puts you in less than 0.25% of all single family home garage doors that exist in the United States of America. So don't tell me you know it all. 2, if you've been doing this for 30 years, I think You can always learn something technical, but you got it by this point. You can usually go to any new system and kind of bumble your way through and figure it out. So now you're at a plateau. You're at a plateau, and if you're comfortable with being in that plateau and not getting any better, cool. I can't help you. No one can help you. Here's the problem. You spent so much time going through the trenches through your youth and all those years of hardship that I think you're scared to do it again in a new facet. And that's on you, dog. You figured out the technical stuff. You figured out the sales. You figured out going from carbon copy paper and MapQuest, and you did it. Fantastic. But there's this whole other field of it that you left on the table, and you're just too scared of being an apprentice again. And you're going to ask more of your apprentices than what you're willing to do yourself. Shame on you. Be better. It's okay to be an apprentice again. That's my advice.
It's a great place to leave it, Jonathan, and a sound challenge for our listeners. Really appreciated hanging out with you on this episode. I think you have a great way about you, and you bring a very natural way of teaching. So kudos to you, and it's clearly well developed in you. If people are interested in learning more about you, about what you're about, or even about A1 Garage, where's a great place to get connected?
A couple connections. You can email me at JON, so john.phillips at a1garage.com. You can look up A1's YouTube channel. There's a little podcast that's more for clients than it is technicians. It's not the same as this. It's just client information. Feel free to reach out. You can find me on Facebook at Jonathan Blake Phillips. Jonathan spelled with an I instead of an A because my family's weird.
But, that's the first A.
Yeah.
JONITHAN.
Yeah. But you can hit me up anytime. Like I said, any email, hit me up on social media, go watch the YouTube. I'm just here because I got this weird sickness to where every time I got a personal goal that I get real sad. And it wasn't until I finally turned my life around helping people get their goals that it like stuck with me. And I don't get sad that the chase is over anymore. So if you can teach me and I can teach you, I'm open all day. I'll talk to anybody.
I'll say as well, if you want to get a hold of him, you can get a hold of us. I'm always happy to put you through to a guest. We're moving away from the email now to get a hold of us and moving to text. So if you want to get a hold of me, get a hold of Nate, thanks for the show, or you got some advice for us, shoot Nate a text for that. I'm sick of everybody's advice. Shoot us a text, 279-2-CLOSER. That's 279-2-CLOSER, 279-225-6737.
There you go, Brian. Proud of you.
Yeah, buddy. Got it.
Well, Jonathan, it's been great to hang out with you. Thanks again for the show. That's a wrap for this episode. We hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, hit Jonathan up and let him know what you thought about the episode and what you took away. Perhaps you are on the jaded side of things, and this was encouragement for you to become a little bit more curious. Or perhaps you have found yourself going straight to solutions, and it's time for you to slow down and spend a little time learning about that client. Love the analogy about being a reporter who has to write a story about the person that you're serving. I think that's so informative and so helpful in the trades. This has been an episode about stop trying to be liked so much and start liking on the client. And I think Jonathan delivered on that today. I liked the show. Hope you did too. If you did, share it around. And of course, we're going to leave you now with our weekly challenge to continue to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.